Well, of all the guests that we've had on this WGBB Tony Award special, the one that we're talking to now, who is not a Tony nominee, may be the most well-known, the most, in some ways, beloved, and the most feared and hated, and I think he would like that in some ways. He's the one and only Michael Riedel. He is a columnist for the New York Post. You can also see him every week on public television's Theater Talk, shown on Channel 13 locally, and he's the one and only. That's the only way to describe Michael Riedel. Michael, how you doing?
Listen, the Broadway world could neutralize me if they gave me an honorary Tony Award for services rendered to the New York theater scene.
Well, if you call the Weislers, you seem to be very close with them. They could get it going. Maybe not Liz McCann.
Maybe a petition signed by Bernadette Peters and Donna Murphy, the cast of the Pirate Queen. All my fans.
Somehow I don't think that'll happen, but I'm thrilled to have you as part of our Tony special here, and thank you also for having me on Theater Talk, which is going to air in a few days, apparently, so that was really cool.
Yeah, that's all. I don't think we edited you out. I'm not sure, though, but I'll let you know.
And so, Michael, let's get right to it. Let's get to the category that we're going to talk about, featured actor in a musical. Those nominees include Brooks Ashmanskas for Martin Short Fame Becomes Me.
Wow, what a legendary performance that was.
Do you even remember what he...
memorable things I've ever seen.
It was a fun show, come on. It didn't catch on, but I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a throwback to, sort of old kind of, vaudevillian, review shtick, maybe sort of like New Faces of 52 or something like that, but I didn't think it was as funny as it should have been. And,
okay.
But I got to say, I thought Brooks was fun. He's a solid actor, and we've seen him in a lot of Broadway shows over the years, and you can always count on him to deliver a good supporting performance.
What about Christian Borle in Legally Blonde?
I was never a big Christian Borle fan, I think, because I always found him so weird-looking. He always looked like Marty Feldman in Young Frankenstein with those eyes that go this way and that way. But I thought he was quite charming in Legally Blonde, a show for which I had no use, and it's just a...
Wait a minute, you were beating the drum for Legally Blonde before
I was never beating the drum. It was the idiot critics in San Francisco who gave it good reviews out there, so my columns had to reflect the fact that it got good reviews out of town, but I always had a sneaking suspicion that when I got to New York, the critics here, who are much smarter and harsher than the critics around the country, they would take it down, and I'm happy to say I was
for the
right.
most part. I mean, they were fairly kind, but it's not that. I don't think it's that great.
Nah, it's just a soulless, empty teenage girl show. But that said, I thought Christian Borle was actually quite winning and charming in it.
So if you were putting him up against John Cullum, John Gallagher Jr., and David Pittu, what do you think?
John Cullum is in 110 of the Shade, and he's a veteran performer and a terrific old Broadway star. John Gallagher is the wonderful kid with the crazy hair in Spring Awakening, which I think is the best musical by far of the season, and indeed one of the best musicals on Broadway in a good many years. And the third is David Pittu, who got some very, very good reviews playing Bertolt Brecht in Love Music, but for my marks, I thought Pittu was a little too cartoony. I will be voting for John Gallagher, and I think he will win.
Yeah, I think so too, quite honestly. And it was a really interesting performance, and he was probably the focal point of Spring Awakening as much as the two lead lovers were. Yeah. People just followed his story a little bit more. It was a little bit stronger.
Well, his is a tragic tale.
Right. Now, since we've got you and you report on Broadway rather than review it, what would you say are the most important couple of stories, or fun, most enjoyable and exciting stories to come out of the last Broadway season?
Well, I think by far the best gossip story, which I specialize in, was the battle between Scott Rudin, the producer of Deuce, Vertical Hour, and The Year of Magical Thinking, his war against the New York Times, which erupted when Scott decided that he was going to use quotes from the New York Times website in his ads for The Year of Magical Thinking. And what he did was he went on the Times website, and the Times invites readers to write their own review of a show. And they invite readers to write the review while the show's in previews. And so there were these readers who were writing in about Vanessa Redgrave in The Year of Magical Thinking before the show opened. And some of the readers liked it a lot, and others didn't. And Scott said, okay, well, if it's okay for the Times to review my show on their website, then it seems legitimate for me to take the good quotes out of those reader reviews and run them in ads for the show.
And say that they came from the New York Times.
They came from the New York Times because they're on the New York Times website. And, of course, the Times went completely crazy and had the legal department call Scott and insist that he no longer do this. And there ensued a rather hilarious exchange of letters. Between Scott and a fellow named Craig R. Whitney, who is something called the Ethics and Standards editor at the New York Times. I mean, no wonder the stock prices down at that place is so top-heavy with administrators. And, Whitney wrote just these pompous letters about, I remember one quote, he said, "You must understand, Mr. Rudin, that, not everything in the New York Times is of the New York Times," which was good laugh for all of us who've been following the Times for years. And Scott just fired letters back saying, "Look, as long as you solicit what you call reader reviews and you run them on the website that is sponsored, promoted, and run by the New York Times, I am well within my rights to quote from a good review for my show on the New York website, on the New York Times website." So
where is that story now?
Scott won that battle, and in fact, the New York Times is now reevaluating whether or not they're going to run reader reviews anymore.
Oh, boy.
But, the New York Times, they reevaluate. It means they have to have a committee of other sort of Craig R. Whitneys of the world over there and have lunches and ponder these things before any decisions can be made.
So
in the meantime, Scott sallies forth, and, the Year of Magical Thinking, which got a mixed review from Ben Brantley in the time, is going to wind up being one of the winners of the season.
What?
Yeah. It'll make its money back.
Oh, no, financially, yeah.
Financially, yeah.
So that
was fun, and it shows you that, with someone like Scott Rudin, who's a powerful, smart, aggressive producer in the mold of David Merrick, he's not afraid to take on the New York Times, and basically to show the world that the New York Times is not the huge power that it once was. So that was fun. And I think, the other story is, once again, Broadway posted record-breaking box office grosses. This is largely due to the fact that they keep raising ticket prices. And we're seeing a situation now where, for a hit show, 2/3 of the orchestra is what they call premium priced.
So it's even gone beyond the $100, $110.
Oh, $100. You're lucky if you can get a $100 ticket for a Jersey Boys or a Wicked or something like that. You want to see Jersey Boys on a Saturday night, you're going to be paying $275, $350 for it.
And they've just changed, I think, the scalping rule, too. They're going to strike
that
now
down. They are going to allow the theater owners and the producers to become the scalpers themselves.
Well, I guess it's capitalism.
It is, yeah. No, it's in its freest. It's capitalism in its rawest form, and whatever the market will bear, which is perfectly fine. We live in a capitalist system, but long term, I think you're basically telling the world that, look, at Broadway, like most of Manhattan now, is really only for rich people. And if you're working class, if you're middle class, forget about it. We're not really interested in making it affordable for you to come to Broadway, because there are enough people willing to pay the huge prices we're demanding now.
Well, thank God you and I can still get in free. That's the main thing.
I got news for you, though. If I didn't have this job and I didn't get those press seats, you wouldn't see me plunging down $350 to see any show.
Yeah. Well,
and I think in the long run, I think that is detrimental to the health of Broadway.
Well, speaking of
because the worm turns, my friend, and it's not always going to be flush times.
Oh yeah, it'll be Okay, I can make a flush joke here, but I'm on my best behavior.
No, let's try to avoid toilet bowl humor.
Totally. Let me ask last question from Michael Riedel of the New York Post. What are you looking forward to in 2007, 2008?
Well, let's see. Certainly, I'm looking forward to Young Frankenstein, the new musical from Mel Brooks and Tom Meehan and Susan Stroman. See if they can match the success of the producers. It's going to be trying out in Seattle in August, and you can be sure I will be there on opening night, filing a report for the Post from the front lines. And I'm curious, although I don't think it's going to be my
your thing,
is a Little Mermaid from Disney, because Disney really flopped out there with Tarzan, the god-awful show from last season, and to my mind, Mary Poppins isn't all that much better. And I think the industry is going to be looking to see if Disney can come up with another winner along the lines of Lion King with Little Mermaid. So that's going to be in Denver in July, and I'm going to head out there to see that. And also, I think I'm headed down to Australia at the end of the month, where I'm going to check out Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, a big multi-million-dollar musical that's starting out in Australia and that's aiming to come to Broadway possibly by the end of next season or the beginning of the following season, 2008.
Oh.
And remember, don't count Australia out. It did give us The Boy from Oz.
Oh. I sure wish they'd give us something else. But I'm so glad the New York Post gave us you, Michael Riedel. And
well, I think Theater World shares that sentiment, David.
That's true. That's true. And Michael and I have known each other literally from his years in running Theater Week.
That's right. That was a long, long time ago.
So it's great to still be your friend.
I remember. You were the intern in the office. You should give me my coffee, if I remember correctly. Right?
And I spilled it on you. Usually you thought it was an accident, but everyone seemed to see that look in my eye. It's like, you're gonna like that show, huh?
Yeah, a little Eve Harrington at work, right near me at Theater Week.
Well, it's all about Eve, you know.
But look, you got a radio show and I don't, so who's the winner?
Well, I'm sure this minute you want one, you'll have one, because that's the way life works for people like Michael Riedel. I don't know why, but it just does. But you know what? You're so charming, and you're such a cool guy.
I see what I want, and I go out and I say, not for me.
Well, thanks for being for us on the WGBB Tony Special. Thanks, Michael.
Great fun, David. Thank you.
Bye.